And we are going to start with the NES request for proposal. So I'm going to explain to you what are the main points about filling and sending and finding the NES request for proposal. So the preliminaries about this topic begin with the starting of a new cycle. So as soon as a new GEM cycle begins in January, the data team delivers the package, including all documents necessary to make proposals for APS and NES data collection. You receive a message from Francis Carmona, which is our data manager, warning your team that this package is available at the website. Then the NES request for proposal is an Excel document part of this package. So you will find it in a zip, which includes all the documents necessary to carry out the GEM cycle. So where do you find this package? Teams can download the package from the website following this path. Then enter as a member using your password. If you don't find your password or you are not aware that you need a password, just ask Aurel Manso, our administrator, to send you the password for your team. Okay, so you go to the website and then once you are in, look for the wiki section at this menu at the left side of the screen, okay? And click here and enter the wiki section. Then, once you are there, you must look for a bullet called GEM 2024 Cycle Documents. Okay, you will see it in the screen. Then click here and open this section. Then you will see that there are instructions to download two types of zip. Okay? One is for teams doing SI studies, that is entrepreneurial ecosystems studies, and the other includes all the documents for make proposals for a regular cycle. So you select this file and download it. Then you're going to get a zip file. So extract the files from the zip and use them as you need. Among them, you are going to find this NES request for proposal, this Excel document we are talking about. Okay. In order to refresh all this information, I am going to the website and show it to you. Here we are in the website. I entered as a team member. Then you go here to wiki section. Open it. Then you will see the cycle documents for this year. Open it. Then you can see the two packages and just select this one and download it, okay? Well, this is very simple and you are going to open this, okay? I hope that these tips are clear now. So once you have the Excel document, this must be filled and delivered to the NES coordinator, myself, and the data manager, Enrique Bastos, that works with me all the time. So the deadline is usually one day of the first week of April. This document must be delivered along with the NES questionnaire translated in the language that you are going to use during the interviews. except if those languages are English or Spanish. This year, thanks to Enrique's work, the online platforms can be provided in English and any other language that you intend to use. And experts can alternate between both languages with no problem. The interview generated is finally just one, not two interviews, one in each language, just one interview. Well, it is very important to understand that a team cannot change this protocol, okay? So it is necessary that you deliver a proposal. It's not allowed to carry out an NES survey if this request for proposal and the questionnaire have not been approved by GEM. Doing it, carrying out the NES independently from GEM protocols and quality standards can derive in no acceptation and processing of the collected data. Okay, so we understand that teams need time to prepare these proposals, but you have from February to July, so there are many months to carry out all these operations without problem. And finally, please don't forget the 2 emails that are necessary to communicate with GEM data team or any issue related with the NES. Please, we save time if you write to me and put in copy Henrique, always, okay? If you do not copy any of us, it is possible that Henrique gets a file or that I get a questionnaire and do not send him, etc. So please understand that this is important. We thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Okay, after these preliminaries, we are going to talk about the composition of this Excel document, of this request for proposal. It is formed by 5 sheets. Okay? The first one is this, okay? And it is just informative. We encourage teams so they read it carefully because sometimes we receive questions that are answered here. Just following what we explain here, there will be no problem. But anyway, I'm going to tell you some important remarks about this first sheet. In this sheet, we ask teams to fill 2 versions of this Excel. One, without any personal information from experts, that is their names, phones, emails, etc. GEM cannot collect personal information from experts. So it is important that you fill 2 versions. One, without names and any personal information for GEM, and the other, including all this personal information for your team, so you can control the survey. So please send us a version with no names and keep the other version with names and personal information to control the survey. Then you must send this document to me and to Henrik. Okay? Then this document is sent to GEM twice. The first time is in April, and we call this document the initial proposal. Then, as you carry out the survey, it is possible that some experts do not meet their compromise and you need to replace them with new experts, or that you find new experts and you want to add them to the sample. All this is fine. And then you can update this initial version in a final version. Usually, teams that follow the protocol send the final version when they finish the survey, along with the SPSS file that GEM provides when the process is finished. Okay? So this is what we explain here in this sheet. Just read it and you will find all these indications. Then the second sheet. The second sheet is the most important because it's where teams provide the information about country, region, or city name, so we can know what team is sending us the proposal. The country code, that is the phone code, the international phone code, if you are a country. And then you can request for a special code if your team is a regional or a city team. Okay, then you can ask for this code to us. Then you must clearly indicate the language or languages to implement the questionnaire. I insist that you can do the questionnaire in English, combine it with any other language. Then, very important, we need that you write down the email addresses of team members that must receive notifications when any interview is filled by an expert. So we don't need all the email addresses of the full team. We just need those that are going to control the survey. So it's time that an expert fills an interview, the system sends a message, including the interview and the data of the expert, so you can control what's going on. Okay, this sheet has all the cells, and after the email addresses, we have two more cells. Here, a team can indicate if you want to ask additional questions of specific interest for your country. And also if you are going to carry out the interviews online or using other procedures, okay? So fill these cells if there are additions of new items or questions. But be careful about that. Teams can add new items or questions at the end of the questionnaire. They cannot alter the official format if they want to put new questions at the end of the questionnaire. And consult the NES coordinator about them, because not all types of questions are valid for an NES questionnaire. Okay, it's formed by blocks, and there is a specific methodology behind the construction of the NES questionnaire. And this is very important. Teams cannot modify the official questionnaire of the current year in any way. Okay? If you think that you would like to change anything about this questionnaire, then modifications must be suggested before the new cycle with time. And you must address these suggestions to the NES group through our executive director, Aileen UNESCO, or myself. Okay? Then, when we receive these suggestions, we propose to the group to discuss them, and then they must send a recommendation to the board. And it's the board, and not the group, not myself, not anybody else, just the board, the one that has the last word after a final discussion. Then they can accept or reject the suggestions and indicate the reasons for that final decision. Okay. Then teams can do the interviews via online, which is the most usual since we implemented the Qualtrics platform. But If there are any difficulty for that, they can do them face-to-face, by email, phone, or any other procedure. But all data collected out of the online platform must be introduced by the team in the platform. Okay, this is a request to meet the quality standards and GEM control. So this sheet is very important, okay, because it includes the essential information that we need. Here we explain different formats to deliver this request for proposal and what types of names and formats you must use to deliver finally this proposal to us. Okay? Then we have the third sheet. The third sheet is where teams insert the list of proposed experts. And this list is organized in areas from financing to cultural and social norms. Okay, if you look at this sheet, you can see here this list. Then this is the number of experts. This is the number of the EFC from 1 to 9. And you can see that this list is prepared to propose 4 experts for each condition. This is financing, this is governmental policies, programs, education and training, R&D transfer, etc. Then you can put here a description of the expert, what justifies the inclusion of this expert. And so GEM accepts it as a good profile for any of these conditions. Then here you have another column to put how many years is this expert participating. And then the rest is for you. GEM only needs these 2 columns, okay? The rest can be filled, then you, and when you save the file for GEM, please remove all this information and just keep it for you. Here you have the expert name, email, phone, etc. A lot of possibilities, so you can have an exhaustive information about the expert. So let's review this. Then teams can add more experts at the end of the list and extend it as necessary, okay? So here you can continue and add following the same format. The most extended list that we received ever came this year and has 300 experts, more or less, okay? So you can extend this list as you wish. Then names and any other personal information must be kept inside the team. Remove it before delivering the request for proposal to us. Then provide good and extended descriptions of the expert profile. Okay, so you can fill this, and this will be as long as you need. Okay, poor descriptions are not accepted. Sometimes when a request for proposal comes and there are no descriptions, we send it back, okay? Because experts' information is key to assure the quality of the purposive sample. This is a purposive sample. Don't forget that. It has the purpose to measure the quality of the context for entrepreneurs. So the experts must be able to give good evaluations on it. Then, as I say, there is a column to indicate the years in which an expert has participated. It is mandatory that teams replace or add new experts each year, 1 per condition, okay? And, well, it is also strongly recommended 1 entrepreneur or business owner manager in each of the 9 conditions or areas, because it is not enough with the opinion of a specialist. We need also the opinion of entrepreneurs and owner managers, because they are the protagonists. They are those that are working in this context whose quality we are trying to measure. Okay, and I repeat, the rest of columns are for your control. GEM does not need all this information, and if any report still comes with this information, we remove it, okay? And we remove it because we cannot save it. Then, among these columns, there is one that is prepared so you can assign a specific and personal code to each expert every year. GEM designed the format of this code in the very beginning in 1999, and we keep the same. It is very useful. So the final number looks like this, and its parts are explained here. So the first 4 digits are the year, the current year, in this case, 2024. Then the next 4 digits are for country codes. Most codes have 2 or 3 digits, but in GEM there are some countries that have up to 4 digits. For example, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and these Caribbean countries. This example is for Spain, 0034. So Spain code is 34, but we are going to use 4 digits. Then the next code is to identify the condition, the EFC, to what the expert belongs. For example, number 4 in this case corresponds to education and training. And then finally, the 2 last digits are to put a number to the expert. For example, first expert 01. So when we read this code, we interpret that this is an expert participating in 2024 for Spain. He represents the condition education and training and is the expert number 1 of the sample. Okay? Then, for teams carrying out more than 99 interviews, they can use 3 digits instead of 2 here. Okay? And for country codes that have codes longer than 4 digits, and this happens for regions, for example, within countries. In this case, you can use more digits here, okay? Well, as a fruit of the direct session that we, a live session that we celebrated on April 9, GEM Mexico has proposed a routine to generate expert codes in Excel. The NES group, like any other suggestion, is going to review it, and if it's approved by the board, we will implement this facility next year in the request for proposal, okay? But it is not there for this year. Well, the first sheet is informative as well, and the teams are going to find there the codes to call the open questions in the preliminary file they receive when the data collection is closed. We are going to talk about these variables that collect the opened questions of the questionnaire, okay? But in advance, for example, one team found this text in the open questions of the SPSS individual level file. For this variable called NES F1 text, an expert responded this text: more availability of funding to support entrepreneurial initiatives, etc. Okay, then the team reads this text and looks for the interpretation of the topic associated to this text in this list provided in the 4th sheet. This is the list, okay? And we have up to 30 topics. The last one is role models, and the first one is financial support for entrepreneurship. Okay, then when they look at the text, they interpret that this response corresponds to the first topic, financing. So they are going to assign the code number 1. Then, in the recommendations opened question, they found this text, more educational and training activities, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the team looks at the list and they associate number 4, education and training, to this response. Okay, and so on for the rest of opened responses. If you have interviewed 36 experts, you are going to have 36 open responses for this variable for supports for entrepreneurship and 36 for recommendations. So you need to code 36 texts using this list, okay? Then, warning is very important about this list. Teams cannot add topics to this list, okay? Cannot. They must find the interpretation among these 30 topics, which are several, okay? Then, if, for example, after some years, we find that a topic is persistent and becomes interesting for being added to this list, then we as gem managers or teams can propose it to the group. And after a discussion, the change of this list will be proposed to the board and approved or not by it, okay? So any addition of these types when you put new columns in the SPSS file that you get results in mistakes when files are harmonized. And this complicates the data management and is source of mistakes. It has happened. So please follow the procedures and protocols, okay? All of us understand that sometimes it's difficult to assign a topic to an open response, but this does not justify changing the structure of the database without a consult. And the last one, the last sheet is informative. Here, GEM provides you with all the country and region codes that we have created to date, okay? Well, this is the final of a section. Let me share with you the request for proposal. Okay, in big, so we can refresh and comment what we have seen. So this is the first sheet, informative, as you can see. This is to read, and you do not need to do anything. Just read and follow the instructions. Then this is the second sheet we commented to put the important information that we need to build the online platform. Without all this information, Henrique cannot program satisfactorily the online platform. So this is key. Your country, the code, the languages, the email addresses of those members of your team that must receive the warnings, if you are going to add or not new questions, and what procedures you are going to use to carry out the interviews. Okay? Then we have the proposal itself. Remember, GEM just need this column where you are going to put the description of the expert profile. Remember that you can add more following the same format, more experts. This is prepared just for 36. And we also need that you fill this column so we can control if you added or not the at least 9 new experts, which are mandatory every new year. The rest of the document with is not should not be filled for GEM. Okay, all these columns are not needed by GEM. Okay, and this is the last column is where you put the expert identification that I explained it before. Maybe next year we will implement here a routine so you can do it automatically. Okay. Then here we have the opened questions codes on this list. These are the codes 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 30. Okay. And all these are topics that can be correlated with the text responses that you get from experts in the open-ended file. And then finally, the last sheet. The last sheet is providing all the country codes that have been participating in GEM up to date. As you can see here, there are some with 4 digits, some of 3 digits, and most of them of 2 digits. And then the region codes, usually of 4 digits, but some countries are doing even provinces within regions, and this requires longer codes, okay? Well, so that's all about the request for proposal. If you have any other question, please write to me and I will answer it. Thank you very much. Okay, so good afternoon to everyone again. Now I'm going to explain the second section of this training. This second section is about GEM NES databases. I know that teams find difficult to understand how many types of databases we are building and which ones must be used to write a national or regional report. So I'm going to go through this topic in detail. Okay, so once you are finished your survey, you know that our data manager, Enrique Bastos, is going to close your online platform and build a first SPSS database. Okay, and this is what I called SPSS database type 1. In GEM, we call this file the original individual level file for each country. Okay, so you receive this file along with instructions to code the open responses and other variables. Okay, once you code these variables, you send this file back to Enrique and to me. And then it is prepared for harmonization. This file is not harmonized. It's just ready for harmonization. Okay, so here you have an example for Cyprus. Okay, and let me show it to you. Okay, so this is the original file that Cyprus, for example, has sent. Okay, here you have the opened responses. Can you see them? This is text, and then these are the variables that you code, you fill with codes. Okay, so if I set off the labels, you will see that these are numbers, while these are texts. These are the original text that experts write down in the questionnaire. Then you code, you assign these numbers, okay? For example, we have seen the list in the request for proposal. You know that the last number is 30, is about role models. So if I set on the labels, you will see here role models, for example, okay? Well, then you can see all the scores for the individual items that form the blocks of the questionnaire. This variable 10 points is just to indicate that this section begins here. Single items in 10 points. Okay, then it's very long. And the questionnaire finishes with the last item of the women's support block. Okay? And then it comes another section in which we can see the expert background variables: gender, age, education, specialization, etc. Okay? Then these are the variables that you fill. This is prepared to put the name of the interviewer. For example, Cyprus could write here, GEM Cyprus team. We are the interviewers. They did not write anything, but you can put here the specific name of the member of the team that did the interviews or the name of the team. This is another variable that you fill. You put these codes, you assign a code to each expert. For example, here, first expert was representative of financial support. The second, the same. The third is about physical infrastructure. This is for market openness, etc. You know that we must see here at least 4 experts per condition. This is the year of the survey, 2023. This is the identity of the expert, okay, on this code, a strange code that we arm each year, okay. These are the years of participation of the expert and how Cyprus did the interviews, all of them in this case online. And here you can put the day in which you are going to deliver the interview. And that's all. This file is not harmonized. It finishes here. There is nothing else. Okay, this is the end. Well, so this is the first type of database, the original individual file for each country. Then, what do we do with these files? Okay, me as the NES coordinator built a second type of file. We call in GEM this file global individual level file. Okay, so when GEM has all, I insist, all databases from all participating countries or regions, the NES Coordinator builds a global individual level database in SPSS format. In this database, countries and regions in the regional are placed on top of each other. We built two files, one for countries and another for regions. So we do two harmonizations, one for countries and another for regions, which are separate, are not the same harmonization, okay? Then, here you can see a picture of this file, but let's go and see it. Okay, this is the global file. It seems, or it looks like the first one that we have seen, and Cyprus is the first country. That is why I selected it. But now, after Cyprus, we have Luxembourg, we have Puerto Rico, we have Guatemala, we have Morocco, we have Brazil, we have all the countries that participated in 2023 up to, so we have here the United Arab Emirates, the last country, and we collected 58 interviews this year, okay, at the international level, okay? And then this is the file where we calculate the harmonization. So here we have the expert's background. Okay. And the opened questions. And here we begin with the section of 10 points. So what you're seeing are the scores for all the single items that we have. This is numeric, always numeric. If I set off the labels, you are going to see just numbers. Okay, since these letters that appear, for example, this is a number 5, which is neither true nor false, okay? Or this is a 0, completely false. We just label the extremes of the scale and the central point. The rest appear as numbers. We don't label all the numbers. Okay, what do we do with these numbers? Then we calculate the principal components to summarize all the blocks in what we call the EFCs, or principal components, or latent variables, or pillars of the NES. All these names are the same, or summary variables, okay? Then, these are the coefficients that result from the calculation of the principal components. Okay, how to interpret these coefficients? Okay, I can do it, but it's statistics. For example, the first item is for equity funding. Do you remember, in my country, there is sufficient equity funding for entrepreneurs? Okay, then this item is correlated with the pillar sufficiency of financing for entrepreneurs at this level. Has a positive and very intensive correlation of 0.755. The second is about equity funding, then bank, yes, debt funding. Okay, debt funding is also correlated with the first principal component, but not at the same level. It weighs somewhat less. The same with this weighs less. This is venture capital. It weighs one of the highest. And this is crowdfunding is this one. Well, these are the different channels. So this, in the end, these are weights that are indicating the importance that each of the financing channels that we have explored have in the final principal component that represents financing for entrepreneurs, sufficiency of financing for entrepreneurs. Okay, we provide all this information so you can look at it and If you want to use it for your conclusions, this is the same for all the blocks. After this, using this information, we calculate linear combinations which result in the summary variables. For example, this is sufficiency of financing for entrepreneurs. This is easy to get finance for entrepreneurs. This is government policies, priority and support. This is government policies, bureaucracy and taxes. This is government programs, education and training at school, education and training at school, etc. You know that we summarize all the closed part of the questionnaire in 13 pillars, which are this. Okay? Then we have special topics this year about SDGs and women. Then we calculate also pillars to represent this information. These are for SDGs. Okay? All of them are labeled. You know what represent. And then these are the two pillars that summarize the information of the women support block. Okay? But what you're seeing here is individual scores. Scores that each of the experts provided to GEM about these questions once combined. Okay? So these scores go from 0 to 10 points. Missing cells are missing responses. That is why it's very important that questionnaires be filled, if possible, 100%. Okay? And then all that we are seeing here is individual level information. Each row is an expert. It is not a country, it's an expert. Well, and then we'll repeat the calculations in 9 points, in 7 points, and in 5 points. So the file finishes here and section 10 and 10 points. If someone wants to work in 9, 7, or 5 points, you are going to find the same indicators or the same variables from here onwards to the right side, okay? So this is the second type of file, okay? The second type, global individual level file, okay? So I summarize. This database is used to calculate all NES indicators, and these calculations are called harmonization. What do we calculate for each country region? We calculate averages of all single items, standard deviations, medians. Then we calculate reliability measures before applying principal components for each of the blocks, which are constructs of the questionnaires, and get the new variables that represent the pillars of the NES, the 13 pillars of the NES. Then we calculate for these pillars the average scores, okay? The standard errors of these averages, the standardized scores for these average scores. This is not very useful currently because it's the same working with the standardized and with the original scores because all of them are in 0 to 10 points scale. So standardized is not very useful. Then we calculate also the percentages of open response set for each topic. And you know that we have 30 topics, okay? And then we repeat the quantitative calculations in 9, 7, and 5 points. And then we prepare the third type of SPSS databases. The third type are individual level files harmonized for each participating country or region. So this second type, the global file, okay, is not made available for teams during the current cycle, but 1 year later, after the global report launch, usually in February. Okay, so during the current cycle, teams cannot look at the global individual level file. Okay. However, in the meantime, teams can download from the website their part of this file. That is the individual level file that includes the calculation of the harmonization that correspond to their country. In short, these files, these type 3 files, are cuts of the global individual file for each country or region. And they are different from the original file that I show at the beginning of this section because they include all the scores calculated for each EFC and the correlation coefficients between each item and the EFC, etc. Let's look at this type of file. Okay, this is for Cyprus, okay? But it is different from, it is not followed by Luxembourg, it's just Cyprus delivered 38 interviews, so this has 38 rows and no more, okay? But if we continue, okay, the first file that Cyprus sent to us ended here. And now all this is the result of the harmonization. First of all, the coefficients of the principal components. I talked about them up before. And then the scores that correspond to the summary variables or principal components or pillars, or call them as you wish, for the experts of Cyprus. Okay? Just for Cyprus. Scores, etc. And now in 9 points, 7 points, etc. So this is a cut of the global individual level file, and it is the third type of file. So remember that you received, you send us an original database, and we give you when we finish the harmonization, a file that looks similar, but it's not the same. It's longer. It's longer. It has much more variables because we add for your country, specifically for your country, your results of the harmonization. And is this useful to write the national report? No, you don't need this file. It's just for you. Some teams use it for writing academic papers or other research products. Usually, sometimes even they add different years in order to have more sample, etc. But this file is not necessary to write your national report, okay? In turn, what is key and is the most important is the type 4, okay? The fourth type of SPSS database. We call this type 4 national level file. And this is what you usually use to write your national or regional report, okay? If we are talking about regions, we call this file regional level file. What means the name is that each row of this file is a country. Here, for example, we can see the example for 2023. Okay, as you can see, each row is a country, United States, South Africa, Greece, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is a national level file. The main difference between the previous and this file is that rows of individual files are experts, individuals. Rows of national or regional level files are countries or regions. Cells of individual level files are raw data. Cells of this national file or regional file are final indicators. They are averages, standard deviations, median percentages for each country or region. This is a specific value result for each country or region. So this is what technically is called an aggregated level file and not an individual level file. It's not about the individuals that we interview, but about the aggregated results for each participating country or region. Okay? So once the harmonization is done, GEM delivers to team through the website two files, the country individual level file, once harmonized, and the national or regional level file. And this is what teams use to write their reports. The individual level file, as I explained it, is for internal use, but it's not necessary at all to write a national or regional report. And this is what I had to say about the relationship between and what you send to GEM and the harmonization, what we do with this raw data. Let me then stop here, and in the next part of the session, we are talking about the relationship between all these databases and the NES questionnaire. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon to everyone again. We are going to talk now about the point in where we are going to analyze the relationship between the NES questionnaire and the national level database. Okay, so we are going to focus in just this SPSS file. I said that in this database, each row is a country, and the columns show the results for the different NES indicators that are derived or extracted from the global database. You can download this database from the GEM website in the data section corresponding to the NES, and you cannot do it until your team has paid the fee to participate in GEM. Okay. GEM only provides databases in SPSS format. Okay. We do not provide files in Excel. So if you don't have an SPSS, I recommend this emulator called PSPP, and you can download it in this link. It takes 5 minutes and is free. You do not need to pay any fee to use it. Okay. Now we are going to see what the main indicators provided by this database are. As you know, this file is formed by different sections. There are some preliminaries in which we present a numeric code assigned to each country, a variable to order country in alphabetic order, the phone codes, the names in text, the world regions to which each country belong, if they are European Union countries or not, OECD countries or not, BRICS countries or not, if they are countries or regions, because as you know, we work not just with countries, but also with regions. And finally, we finish this section assigning categories of income to countries. We have 3 variables. One that presents the World Bank income categories in 5 categories, the same but in 3 categories, and then the income categories provided by GEM and studied to balance the number of countries in three income categories for the global report. Okay, then this section finishes with the number of interviews provided by each participating countries. Okay, then the next section is about the NESI index. As you know, this is an indicator implemented by GEM in 2019 that summarizes in one figure, just one number, the average state of the context for entrepreneurship in one country. It's calculated at the average of the 13 pillars of summary variables extracted from the data. Well, some members of the teams become confused about this point. Please pay attention to this table. Experts give their evaluations on 9 areas, 9, okay? But these 9 areas later, when we calculate the pillars or the principal components or the summary variables, okay, result in 13 new variables, not 9, but 13. Why? Because, for example, in financing for entrepreneurs, we have 2 pillars. One is sufficiency of finance for entrepreneurs, and the other is easy to get finance for entrepreneurs. The same happens in government policies. One is for policies themselves, and the other is for bureaucracy and taxes. Government programs is just one pillar. Education and training has 2 pillars, one for the school stage and the other for post-school. Then R&D transfer is 1 pillar, commercial and professional infrastructure is 1 pillar, internal market is 2 pillars, one for dynamics and the other for burdens and regulation. And finally, the 2 final are just 2 pillars. So from 9 areas, we get 13 pillars. Don't get confused about that. Okay, then the database continues with a section that is devoted to the NESI. Then the section begins with this variable, which is instrumental to indicate the beginning of this section and has no practical use. Then we show the average of the NESI in 10 points for each country. Then the standard deviation of this average for this country. Then the rank that orders countries from the lowest to the highest value of the index. Then, in terms of practical use, then can show results about the NESI in different ways. If you use tables, then you can put the country name, the NESI average score, the standard deviation, and the rank. Or you can show graphs of different types. For example, this that shows the complete NESI, or you can do this graph just for countries in your income level or your geographical region, or organize this graph by income group, etc. Okay, so you just need to go to the national level file and copy and paste the values that you need of the NESI for your country or other countries. Okay, let's go there and see this in the SPSS file. Okay, so this is a national level file. You can see that it begins with the identification, etc. And then here begins the section about the NESI. This is an instrumental variable, it's in blank, just to separate this section from this. Here you have the NESI mean in 10 points for each country, the standard deviation, and the rank. For example, this country is the second one this year. Okay, if you want to know which country is this? Is India. Okay, India is the second one, etc. Then here we begin a different section. Here we are going to present the average values of each single item of the questionnaire. As you can see in the label, here you have the complete text of the first item, of the second item, of the third item, etc. So, single items and pillars. After the previous, after the NESI, the database presents the variables that show the average or mean scores for each single item of the questionnaire for each participating country. And here you have all the single items, and these are the names of the variables, okay? This continues until cultural and social norms. This is the last item for cultural and social norms. Here you have the single items of the special topics. These are the SDGs, and these are the women support block. And here, this section finishes with the last of these items of women, okay? Here we explain what I have been saying when I showed to you the SPSS. And then the database continues with a series of variables that provide standard deviations, etc. Okay, medians. And then after this series of variables, we find the 13 pillars. Okay, and these pillars are calculated as principal components of the blocks. Okay, so these are the names of these variables and their labels. Okay. These are the pillars that we extracted for SDGs and women. And then once we have all these values, you just go there, look for those for your country, and then you can build different types of results. For example, spider graphs like this. You can see here all the pillars and their values for one country. And what is very interesting is to work with each pillar and the average score of the single items. This is an example for sufficiency of finance for entrepreneurs, the first pillar. In this country, the average score is this one, 5.26, and the conclusion is that, okay, this pillar of the context is at least sufficient. Then, what are the single components of sufficiency of finance for entrepreneurs? These 8 single items, okay? Then you can look for the average score for your country. And for example, for this country, we got these average scores. And then here we can draw the conclusions. For example, this is that experts perceive this statement as somewhat true. This one is quite true, this somewhat true, quite true, somewhat false, because this does not reach 5 points, somewhat false, and quite false. This is below even 4 points. We use here true and false because we are talking about direct scores provided by experts, and they always score in terms of if a statement is false or true. They never say something is insufficient or sufficient. No, never. They always talk about false and true. Then when we get the pillars, we interpret these pillars as in very bad state or very good state or very insufficient, very sufficient. But this is our interpretation. Experts never tell us if something is sufficient or insufficient, okay? Then To find out what variables form each pillar, you can look at the questionnaire, but if one block is divided into pillars, then go to this document that we call reliability measures, okay, which is provided along with the database, and then look there for the components of each pillar. Finally, in the national level file, you will find the percentage of citations of each of the topics that are part of this list of 30 topics. You can look for the percentages of your country. This is an example for a specific country, and present the results the way you wish, in tables or graphs like this. For example, in this country, most of experts indicated that government policies are a good support for entrepreneurship. And in the graph of recommendations, for example, most of experts recommended to take a look on financial support, which is not enough to make up a good context for entrepreneurs. The rest of the database repeats the quantitative indicators in 9, 7, and 5 points, because in the past, GEM used 9 and 5 point scales. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention, and write if you have any question on this topic. Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon to everyone again. In this section, we are going to talk about the EFCs and their calculation. This is probably the most technical and difficult section about being trained with respect to the NES. I will try to make it as easy as possible. And okay, I hope that you understand. So when we do the harmonization, we call EFCs, entrepreneurial framework conditions, to the 13 variables that represent the latent concepts of sufficiency of financing for entrepreneur, easy to get finance, government policies, programs, educational training, etc., up to 13. But there are other names for these variables. It depends on on how veteran you are in GEM. At the beginning, okay, they were called summary variables. Okay, summary variables. But technically speaking, for statisticians, they are principal components. And since we presented the NESI, people began to call them pillars, because when you have a composite index and it is the average of several variables, these variables are called the pillars of the index. But what is important is that if you see summary variable, principal component of pillars, all them are the same variables, okay? No matter what name do we use, we are referring to the same concept. But technically speaking, the EFCs are principal components. Okay, so what is principal components? Principal components like, for example, regression or cross-tabulation or any other statistical method. Principal components is the name of a statistical methodology that is used to extract and summarize, and that is the origin of the name summary variables, because this technique summarizes the information provided by a block of items in a questionnaire. Okay, so as you know, the NES questionnaire is made of blocks. Like, for example, many questionnaires that are used by psychologists and or doctors in medicine. Or okay, or in sociology to analyze sociological behaviors. So the NES is this type of questionnaire. Then in technical terms, each block is called a construct. And each block represents what we statisticians call a latent concept, a concept that is not visible. Financing for entrepreneurs is a concept, is an abstract concept. Then we build a construct of different items that refer to this concept. And finally, when we summarize all this information, we get a new variable called a principal component that summarizes all the information of all these items. Okay, this is what is a principal component. And then we explain the procedure to calculate principal components in the document named GEM NES reliability measures. Okay, then let me show it. Okay, this is the document. I know I am very conscious that few members of GEM look at this document or find it useful or have the patience of reading all this. We understand, but our duty is to provide teams with all the methodological documents that justify GEM methodology. Okay. Then, before doing the harmonization, we must calculate what we call the reliability measures that assure that the blocks of the questionnaire are good representatives of the latent concept. Then if we look at this second sheet, we are going to see here block A, B2, B2. So this is sufficiency of financing for entrepreneurs, easy to get funding, etc. Okay. Then SPSS calculates a statistic called Cronbach alpha, okay, to give us a figure, a value, which is this, that is a measure of how consistent is the information that we collected with the blocks of the questionnaire. Okay. You don't need to know how to calculate this technically. SPSS does it automatically. What we need to know is that a construct, a block of a questionnaire is valid or works well if the Cronbach alpha is 0.5 or higher. Okay, as you can see, the values that we got this year for the blocks are very high. This represents that we are doing well, that the questionnaire worked well. And this is happening since GEM implemented the NES questionnaire. So we know that we have a very good tool, okay? We control also how many responses we had for each of the blocks, okay? And how many we did not have. For example, as you can see from all blocks, internal market burdens, which is, is the one that is more difficult for experts to evaluate, to give valid responses, okay? And this is an indicator for us to know if we could take a look to this block in order to improve it, etc. The same happens with SDGs. This is the weakest of the blocks on SDGs. So for experts, it's difficult to give us a perception about the degree of priority assigned to economic performance in new and growing firms. In turn, for example, it's more easy to evaluate the social contribution and social responsibility than the responsibility in economic terms, etc. So here, sorry, we have a lot of information. No, well, I don't want to go in deep on how to calculate principal components, but here you have the formula. Okay. For example, this is for principal component number 1, sufficiency for entrepreneurs. We got these coefficients from the principal components. Do you remember when I showed the global individual level file and I told you these are coefficients from the principal components method? Okay, these are these. Then, how do we calculate a principal component? Okay, this is the formula. This is the score given by an expert multiplied by this coefficient plus the same of the second item, the third item, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And all this is divided by the addition of all the coefficients. This is what we call a weighted average. That is why we say that the summary variables have been weighted and we do not need to wait to apply more weights to the principal components, to the summary variable. Okay, this is what I wanted to explain you on how we calculate these principal components. I am conscious that it is mathematics, is statistics, and maybe not everybody wants or needs this information. And finally, I told you, look at this document if you want to know which items are part of each block. Here you have the answer to this question. So look at this information in order to see, for example, that internal market dynamics is formed by items G01 and G02, for example, while burdens and regulations is G3, 4, 5, 6. Here you have all the information you need, and the same for special topics. Okay? Okay, so that's all I wanted to share with you about how to calculate principal components. Of course, if you want to have more information, just write and we can celebrate a private session, or I can give more explanations face to face. But in general, teams have enough with this information. Thank you very much for your attention. And this is the final video about the NES training session for now. Thank you very much. Best regards to everyone.